Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill will make America more indebted, more unequal, and less green. Here are 4 things to know. The first is that the bill is big. Really big. Nearly 1,000 pages of tax cuts, spending reductions, and new outlays for things like the military and the border. Senators have been voting on trillions of dollars in spending, with barely any time to check the details, and on hardly any sleep. The compressed timeline and lack of transparency makes it easy to slip in extra provisions, which are hard to get rid of once they become law. One big effect of the bill will be to significantly increase America's budget deficit, which is already huge. It's projected to rise by a cumulative $3 trillion over the next decade, mainly because the bill makes permanent some of the temporary tax cuts that President Trump signed into law in 2017 and adds some new ones. It also increases spending on defense, border security, and non-renewable energy production. Some forecasters are optimistic that the tax cuts will push more workers into the job market and incentivize investment. Other modelers are less optimistic. This chart predicts that the bill will initially boost GDP growth, but over a longer period will be a drag on the economy. That's mostly due to higher interest rates. Eventually, the government will need to cut spending and raise taxes, but it looks like Congress and the president won't do that until they're forced to by the bond market. To partly offset all this spending, the bill contains proposed cuts too. Chief among these are cuts to Medicaid and allowing Obamacare premium subsidies to expire. Both programs are relied on by millions of low-income Americans. Nearly 12 million people could lose health insurance over the next decade as a result. The bill will hasten the phasing out of Joe Biden's green energy subsidies, which are now due to end in 2027. This chart shows the projected effect. The amount of clean energy added to the grid by 2035 will be about 1/3 of what it would have been if the energy tax credits were kept. Critics, including Elon Musk, say that by slowing down new generating capacity, it will hurt the economy and delay the development of AI. Donald Trump says his bill will cut spending, spark growth, and put more money in American pockets. That's partly true. Millions will indeed benefit from the extension of personal tax cuts. But they will disproportionately benefit the well-off, and those tax cuts are paired with much smaller spending reductions. It's certainly big, but it is not beautiful.
Top 10 things you need to know about the budget Congress just passed. Less than 3 minutes, here we go. Raises the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. So starting on January 1st, 2026, Donald Trump can go out and borrow $5 trillion. It authorizes $150 billion in additional border spending. That's $46.5 billion for more of his wall and $30 billion to ICE. ICE's current budget is $4 billion, so that's a hell of an increase. Department of Defense is getting an additional $154 billion with $25 billion for the Golden Dome and $29 billion to boost shipbuilding. Here's where they start to get tricky because there's a line item that gives $50 billion to fund rural hospitals that use Medicaid. But don't forget, they took away $901 billion from funding in Medicaid. So I guess we're only down $851 billion now. They've also created a Trump savings account for children that are born during this 4-year period. Basically, when your infant is born, Donald Trump will open a bank account using their social security number. He will put $1,000 into that account that you cannot touch or control. The government will use that seed money to make investments on behalf of your child until they are 18 years old. I don't know what happens after that because it doesn't say. But something freaks me out about Donald Trump opening a bank account with my infant child's social security number, whether I want him to or not. The bill offers permanent extensions of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that created the greatest wealth gap in the history of the United States. But you won't pay tax on your tips up to $25,000 or your overtime up to $12,500, only for 3 years, though. That tax cut will expire after 3 years, while the tax cuts for corporations and billionaires go on forever. They did boost the standard deduction just a little bit for single filers, and they boosted the child tax credit by about $300 a year. But wealthy venture capitalists will get to claim up to $10 million tax-free. They added taxes to colleges and universities that have more than 3,000 students while lowering the tax rates for smaller schools, like the small Christian universities. They also eliminated several of the student loan repayment plans, including the SAVE Act, which was the most affordable student loan repayment plan. But now rich people can claim full private school tuition as an expense on their taxes. They put a cap on how much money you can borrow from the federal government in your lifetime for education at $257,500, and that is for undergraduate, grad school, and PhD. They also put restrictions on any healthcare company that provides abortions from being able to receive Medicaid funding. Also now there's an 80-hour-a-month Medicaid work requirement. And here's how they're going to get you, because if you have to work 80 hours a week, you might make too much money to qualify for Medicaid. And if you can't work, then you don't qualify for Medicaid. Starting January 1st, 2026, it'll take about a year for all of this to go into effect. So yes, some of it won't happen until after the midterms.
They are going to be capping federal student loans to $150,000, okay? Meaning that if you can't come up with the difference for your program, that you just won't have access to it. You won't be able to take that program. So effectively, this is creating a caste system in America. And the way it's creating a caste system is because it's saying if you were not born wealthy or were not born into the right family, you will not have access to these degree programs, meaning there's no way for you to further yourself in that field of study if you so choose, okay? So not only are they going to cap student loans, but they are also not going to limit tuition rates, okay? What this means is the institutions that have already folded for Trump's, the ones that are being his puppets, raise those tuition rates. I only want a select amount of people and select certain people having access to this education. And then he's going to control what those people learn by influencing those colleges and threatening them with taking away grants and things that we've already seen him do thus far, right? So, and why does this matter to you, even if you're not going to go to college? It matters because this is taking the people that are going to be doctors, lawyers, physicists, the people that are important in certain fields of study that is important to have intelligent people, and we are vastly limiting that pool, right? We are limiting that pool by people's income rates. And as we all know, just having income or being good at making income does not mean you are an intelligent person, okay? It does not mean that you are better than people that do not have that amount of money or that income flow. Okay, we've proven that. That's why we've set up these public programs to help people less fortunate, to help people to get into positions to become doctors, to become lawyers, to do these things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do because of things that are outside of their control. And now the government is saying, we're taking away those safeguards and we're going to lock down these things and we're going to control who has access and who can do these things. And it's all of us are going to suffer, right? It's not just the poor people. Instead of us just having the right person for the job now and the person that's the most qualified, we're going to have people that are selected based on nepotism and based on their parents' tax income. Now is the time. You need to call your senators. You need to email them. Do it daily if you can. If you can't, that's fine. Once is better than nothing. Okay? Have that discussion with people around you. Have that discussion with people at work. Do you know that this is what's going on? Are you aware of this? The more information you can give people that is factual, the further you will get in this, okay? And at this point, it's our pressure put on senators that are going to make a difference. So call, email, do your part. If you don't know how to find those people who you should be contacting, do a Google search. If you can't figure that out, send me a message. I will gladly help you figure out who you need to be contacting.
So now that the big beautiful bill is law, here's the devastation nearly no one is talking about. So the bill cuts Medicaid by roughly $863 billion to $1 trillion over 10 years and imposes work and paperwork barriers like 80-hour monthly work requirements and more frequent eligibility checks. The result, millions lose coverage and over 600 nursing homes and possibly hundreds of rural hospitals could close, leading to ER overcrowding and delayed care in rural America. So even Medicare faces hits. The bill pauses policies to ease access for low-income seniors, cuts nearly $490 billion from benefits between 2027 and 34, and bars green card holders from enrolling for 5 years. So food stamp funding, SNAP, is slashed by $295 billion with stricter work rules, higher administrative costs shifted to states, and altered benefit formula, potentially disqualifying millions and pushing around 42 million Americans toward food insecurity. The bill changes Pell Grant eligibility, requiring full-time enrollment and wiping out aid for many part-time students. Around 310,000 students in Texas may lose partial or complete Pell, 143,000 losing it outright. It kills Biden-era loan forgiveness, caps graduate borrowing at $20.5K a year, $100K total, bars plus loans, and slashes CFPB funding in half, leaving students to drown in debt and with fewer consumer protections. So the bill phases out clean power tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act, rolls back solar and wind subsidies, and expands fossil fuel leasing, undermining green energy efforts and raising emissions and bills. Here's the kicker. It pours an extra $90 billion into ICE and border enforcement, making ICE the largest funded federal law enforcement agency, prioritizing deportation over community safety. In short, billions for the wealthy and fossil fuel industries and ICE, but massive cuts to health, food, education, energy, consumer protections. This isn't beautiful, it's brutal. Millions will suffer. Speak up, share the truth. I'm Chasta Affiliate, and if you want more updates on this big, disastrous bill, follow me.
Regardless of who you voted for or where you fall on the political spectrum, I need you to hear what I have to say and receive it with an open heart and open mind, because it's not going to only affect you, but it's going to affect millions of your fellow Americans. This is why the big beautiful bill is going to hurt the working, middle, and lower class. As far as housing, they're going to cut rental assistance, Section 8, and homelessness prevention. If you're a low-income family, a veteran, or a single parent, good luck with finding safe and stable housing. These cuts to housing include HUD programs, Section 8 vouchers, and emergency rental assistance. This impacts families already struggling with rent hikes, and they will face longer wait lists or lose their support. Homelessness is likely to rise, especially for single parents, veterans, and low-income seniors. Landlords in low-income areas may evict faster, knowing subsidies won't come through, and this hurts the working-class families, disabled individuals, unhoused people, immigrants, and unsubsidized housing. Up next, how will it affect food stamps and WIC? They're gone for millions. So if you're working full-time and still rely on SNAP to feed your kids, too bad, babes. You're out. Reductions in SNAP, food stamps, WIC, all those programs, they're being cut. Eligibility thresholds are tightening and benefits are shrinking. This affects millions who may get kicked off of food assistance or receive less, even if they're working full-time. Families with kids will see grocery budgets stretched a little thinner, and WIC cuts means fewer resources for pregnant women, babies, and toddlers. This not only hurts single parents, but immigrant families, gig workers, students with kids, and the elderly. As far as healthcare, Medicaid is getting gutted. That means more uninsured workers, higher medical debt, and fewer mental health resources. If you beat cancer like I did, or live with a chronic illness, they just made staying alive more expensive. This bill causes healthcare program rollbacks. What's being cut is Medicaid expansion and subsidies from the ACA. This impacts low-wage workers who rely on Medicaid, who will then become uninsured or forced into private plans that they cannot afford. Preventative care, mental health services, and prescriptions will become inaccessible. This mainly hurts immigrants, low-income workers, cancer survivors, or people with chronic illnesses. As far as education, they're attacking Pell Grants and student loan relief. First-generation students, immigrants, and parents who are trying to go back to school, the path for a better future for yourself or your family just got that much harder. In relation to the education access, this is what is going to be cut or restricted. Federal Pell Grants, student loan forgiveness programs, funding for public colleges, and adult education. This makes it to where education becomes even harder to access without debt, and immigrants and first-generation students lose their shot at an upward mobility. Adult learners, like parents going back to school, are now going to face more barriers. This hurts the working-class students, DACA recipients, parents returning to school, and people trying to skill up to escape poverty. I know this is one of the biggest ones, but the tax cut for the wealthy and corporate welfare, sweet merciful Jesus. While they're slashing aid, this is what they're doing. Expanding tax loopholes for billionaires, lowering corporate tax rates, deregulating industries that exploit labor. Need I go on? In layman's terms, and in order to translate for the people in the back who are just not getting it, tax cuts for billionaires are untouched. Corporate loopholes are still wide open. They're not cutting waste, they're cutting people like us. They're balancing the budget on the backs of the poor while rewarding the already rich. This is why it matters. This bill isn't about cutting waste, it's about cutting people out of basic dignity. It undermines economic mobility, education access, food security, healthcare equity, human rights for immigrants, and working families. It is a direct blow to the working, middle, and lower class. But here's the thing. This isn't the end. It's a wake-up call. Talk about it. Share this. Show up where it counts. Because we deserve more than survival. We deserve a system that serves us, not one that buries us while smiling. If you stayed to the end of the video, please interact with it in any way. Repost, comment, like, share, because this needs to get out to people like us. A lot of people are not aware of what's happening behind the scenes because they're too distracted. And on top of this, many Americans who voted for the talking orange believe that rules for thee and not for me is how things are going to play out. And it's just not. There are many Americans who are waking up to find out that their lives are going to be impacted by this. Many of them are effing around and finding out the hard way, as they should. But unfortunately, millions of other Americans are going to be impacted by the choices that they have made. So if you stayed, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you have a fabulous day, and God bless you.
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah.
Did you see that the budget bill passed?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, a phrase that I keep hearing about the Trump administration's actions is that the cruelty is the point. And I think that this bill is a perfect example of that. It's a bill that claims to be helping poor people and low-income families by cutting taxes on their income, while in reality it's moving crucial benefits from those people in order to shift wealth to the ultra-rich.
Who's going to be impacted by this the most?
Low and middle-income households for sure. At biggest risk is anybody receiving Medicaid benefits. Nearly 1 in 7 current Medicaid beneficiaries could be losing those benefits because of new work requirements that are being imposed by the Trump administration. While the Republican Party likes to describe Medicaid beneficiaries as, lazy and unmotivated, and the truth is that many of them are disabled, and unable to work because of their disabilities. They might be veterans. A lot of them are elderly people. These are people that, rather than being able to work to meet these benefits, may simply just die because they can't receive critical health care. We're also looking at potentially another 8 million people that could be losing access to food assistance through the form of SNAP benefits because of, again, work requirements that are being placed on those benefits. And many of those people are children. So we're using the lives of the disabled, of the elderly, of the poor, of children to fund tax cuts for the rich, increase military spending that is completely unnecessary, and to fund what's basically a terror campaign against immigrants in this country. And then on top of those lives that are threatened by the loss of benefits, there's a number of other terrible changes in the bill that are also likely to disproportionately affect poor people. Critical among them is cuts to the green energy industry that, when you combine them with the effects of recent executive orders, such as the removal of hurricane monitoring from public access, could lead to millions of lives being lost because of global warming incidents like hurricanes and tornadoes in the upcoming years. So we're really just using the lives of millions and millions and millions of poor Americans, many of which live in GOP states and may have even voted for the representatives that supported this bill, to further increase the wealth gap in this country. And the Republicans in Congress are laughing about it. Cruelty is the point.
What can people do to stop this?
I think the best thing going forward at this point is honestly a general strike. Unfortunately, I think the only party that's really capable of organizing a general strike is the Democratic leadership itself. Something like a general strike requires so much funding and organizational capacity that I don't really see any other organization, especially grassroots organization, able to do so. Whether the Democratic leadership has the will and resolve to do that, I don't know. But for the average person in the U.S., I think the best thing to do is to push your senators and representatives to call for a general strike at this point.
Trump has did it again. 4 votes is what got the win. 4. I sat there and watched it for the whole. They said it 15, but it really was like 20 minutes. They won. They got it. So with this being said, all my nurses, all my doctors, all my CNAs, all my people who work at the nursing homes, get prepared because, yeah, you're about to be out of a job. All these little clinics around here in these small towns, yeah, they're about to close. This is about to be really ugly. It's about to get really ugly here in America. Yeah. All because of 4 fucking votes. And you know what? The Democrats was winning at first. It was going. I was like, yeah, you know, this might be a good one. And then it started slowing down. Then it came to 4 motherfuckers who wanted to say, you know what? Let all them bitches die. That's really what it's giving. And I just feel for a lot of people. I feel for all the people that's in the nursing home who has Medicaid. Like, this is crazy. This is wild. This is gonna be the upside down for America right here.
What if I told you that everything that's going on in today's society with like the big beautiful bill that just got passed and all these laws and that are being put in place is not being orchestrated by Donald Trump? It runs a hell of a lot deeper than what you think. And yes, he's the one he's the spokesperson. That's what it is. He's the spokesperson for what's going on. He's the one that everybody is hating because he's the one that's putting everything out there verbally. But Trump is nothing but a puppet. He's not the one moving the strings. The puppeteers are. Who are the puppeteers? The founders of the Heritage Foundation. That is who everyone needs to be looking into. And I promise, if y'all had read Project 2025, y'all would know this. All those bills that he signed on Inauguration Day, all those bills that he's been signing, he doesn't know exactly what he's signing. He's just signing them. And that's exactly what the puppeteers told him to do. And that day that he walked across the stage and became president, that day is the end of civilization the way we have known it to be. I'm going to take it a step further. People are calling certain individuals, I don't know who they are, right? Certain individuals are calling for certain things to happen. But the person under him, if anything were to happen to him, the person under him is going to be 10 times worse. I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting with that one, but I could just tell, I could just see it in his eyes that, yeah, he's going to be 10 times worse. So with that being said, I tell you this, you better buckle up and get ready for this ride because it's going to be one hell of a...
So the big beautiful bill passed, and the question is, why does this mean that jobs are going to be affected for nurses, doctors, etc.? So we have to remember, people don't stop getting sick or stop needing care, but they stop being able to access care. So entities like hospitals, healthcare facilities, clinics operate and rely on Medicaid funds, and that means 2/3 is like federal funding. When that goes away and these places no longer have funding, they won't be able to fund staff. So you won't have nurses being able to safely staff floors or nursing homes. They won't be able to pay providers because the reimbursement rates are going to get cut so bad. Doctors aren't going to want to work there. and they're not going to be able to afford to keep them. So facilities close, jobs lose, wait times go up at ERs, wait times just go up overall, and care goes down for everyone.
Breaking news, Donald Trump's big ugly bill has passed Congress and will be signed into law by Trump any moment now. This bill is being described as the worst piece of legislation that has ever passed through the American Congress and the most expensive bill that has ever been signed into law. This bill is estimated to cost $4 trillion, so everybody that supports Trump because you were sold the lie he'd be good for the debt, guess what? You're wrong. And this bill is also expected to cut healthcare benefits for millions of Americans, food stamps or SNAP benefits for millions of Americans, and student aid for millions of college students. Not to mention, it rolls back a lot of the clean energy subsidies passed by the Biden-Harris administration, which is expected to increase the price of your energy by around $400 per year per household. And according to estimates from the University of Pennsylvania, if you make around or under $51,000 per year, which is roughly the average American, you'll be paying more in taxes. This bill is going to have devastating effects on America. In fact, it may be what finally pushes us over the edge and ensures that the next generation will have a lower quality of life than the generation before them. It's an awfully sad day for America, but that's all for now. I'll keep you guys posted.
The big beautiful bill was just signed into law. Here's what it means for your student loans. SAVE, ICR, and Pay As You Earn are eliminated. Borrowers must enroll in either IBR or the new income-driven plan repayment assistance plan by July 1st, 2028. Standard, graduated, and extended plans remain available. The timeline for loan forgiveness under the new repayment assistance plan is 30 years, up from 20 to 25 in the old IDR plans. As for public student loan forgiveness, you will not lose your on-time payment credits if you switch into the new repayment assistance plan. The Grad Plus loan program will be eliminated effective July 1st, 2026. This program allows students to borrow up to the full cost of attendance. Borrowing will now be capped at $100,000 for graduate students and $200,000 for professional students, which is a slight bump from the House version. Parent Plus loans will have a lifetime cap of $65,000, and loans taken out after 2026 will no longer qualify for income-driven repayment or forgiveness. Deferment will be eliminated for economic hardship and unemployment starting July 1st, 2027. However, loans can be rehabilitated from default twice, up from the current one-time limit. Schools will be evaluated on graduate earnings based on 3 peer benchmarks: median earnings of any working adult in your state, in the same field in your state, and in the same field nationally. Whichever of these is the lowest, graduates must now match that in earnings. If a school's graduates' median earnings fall below that threshold for 2 of the last 3 years, new students in that program will lose all federal aid. Now, for some good news, the Senate version of the bill does not increase Pell Grant requirements from 12 to 15 credits, and it also does not eliminate subsidized loans for undergraduates. Thank you all for calling and emailing your representatives. I know it can feel pointless if you live in a blue state because they're already voting no, or if you live in a red state because they're already voting yes, but this proves it was not pointless. It is devastating that this bill passed in the first place, but there were some positive changes as a result of us voicing our concerns to our representatives. And if you want to make sure you make an even bigger impact, the 2026 midterms are coming up. So make a plan to volunteer, canvass, and vote these Republicans who passed the bill out of office.
Big beautiful bill, Medicaid cuts. I'm for it because I'm an able-bodied American citizen right now. I'm headed to work. I work at least 40 hours a week. People need to stop just getting free benefits. If you can go to work, you need to go to work because we're tired of paying for everybody. So Medicaid cuts, we're here for it.
It's my mother-in-law. She worked 40 hours a week too at the same company for 32 years, and she was union, and then she got brain tumors and she lost her health insurance. Because if you're not working, you're gonna lose your health insurance, and then Medicaid and Medicare kick in. Every single person is one tragedy away from having to be on Medicaid and Medicare. You're one brain tumor, one car accident, and for you specifically, looking at you, I can tell you're one heart attack away from needing Medicaid and Medicare. Now, I know that you think everybody that's on them is lazy illegals, but guess what? One day you're gonna need it and you're not gonna have it. And it's not you that's paying everything. It's people like me, the younger generation, that are paying for that for you, for her. Now, thank God that she had successful children that can subsidize her way of life, because Medicare and Medicaid, it don't cover it all. You're going to be in poverty forever, and you're going to lose your house, you're going to lose your home, you're going to lose everything that you ever worked for, and you're going to have to move in with your kids. So I hope that you have fucking rich kids, because you just made that little tiny entitlement that you're going to need fucking smaller. I would like people like you to think of the future. You're gonna need it. For you, it's probably gonna be a couple years, all right? Because I can tell you probably been eating butter and fried chicken for the last 20 years.